Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Star Wars Minute. It's the daily podcast where we analyze, scrutinize, and deify the Star Wars movies 1 minute at a time. I'm Pete the Retailer from PeteTheRetailer.com.
I'm Alex Robinson from AlexRobinson.fun.
And I'm Chrysanthe Tan. This is Snoke and Snoke. And I have music on Spotify, YouTube. Have some album. I have a Star Wars cover. I have Battle of the Heroes cover, which was a Star Wars Minute former closing song.
Yeah.
And I also have a podcast called Star Wars Music Minute.
Star Wars Music Minute.
That's right. All this and Andy Rooney here on minute 60 of Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. We're 1 hour into this movie.
Time flies.
And minute 8 starts with the caretakers giving Rey a slow burn stare. And it ends with Luke saying, Ben. Ben. Which we've heard him say before.
Mm-hmm. It's been done.
I do love the, as mentioned before, I do love the caretakers. And I love this little kind of, I love how much time is given to this slow kind of like,
It's a very Laurel and Hardy slow burn take of them looking down and then looking up. Fantastic. Yeah. Chef's kiss.
At the end of the novel, the caretakers have like a thing from their perspective, basically, of like all this that has transpired. And they're like, well, not to give Last Jedi spoilers for the end of the movie, but they do talk about how, there was that man who came and then he disappeared one day. No one knows where he went. And for a while he had that, like, his niece or whatever. And the person that he called, and she was, she was very destructive and
and his weird dog that ate all the porgs.
But they talk about how like Luke was very respectful and they liked him and they cared for him. And that's basically their role is they and they're like, until the next guest, like, well, I guess we'll keep all the Jedi stuff safe until someday someone else will come.
I guess Rey goes back,
which I
right?
think is cool.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't think she does.
Doesn't she go back in Rise of Skywalker?
I don't recall.
Yeah, remember she flies the TIE fighter there, and she flies Luke's X-wing back to to civilization.
But I mean, to like live there. Right, I think they're clearly used to Jedi every now and then doing this.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I like.
Although I do like the idea of them being like, oh, what happened to that guy? He was so nice. Like, although, like, he just disappeared and left his dirty laundry all over the promontory.
This is a historic
I can't
site.
remember exactly, but I think they're like, we'll keep his stuff safe or something. Like, they are the protectors of the Jedi artifacts there.
Yeah. Well, I like that. Then that like the other, they're going to keep his stuff safe in his hut, and the other huts. Like the reason why Rey didn't stay initially in one of the other huts is those are all like full of other. There's like, oh no, that's Kit Fisto's hut. He was here for a while. He just left all of his junk there. We're holding it for him. Who knows when he's going to come back? Like
the Yarrell Poof suite.
Yeah, which is a tall, skinny house.
Well, yeah. Now the Jedi Master Suite is open again. Another opening.
I think I'm a little put off by Rey's total indifference to the fact that she smashed the caretaker's cart. She just looks down and is just like, meh.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Me too.
I thought she apologized. I thought there was that beat in here, but I guess not.
Sorry, but she was raised by Uncle Plux, who I'm sure was not like the most teaching people manners type of thing. So,
what did you just call him?
Uncle the guy who owned the Millennium Falcon. Uncle, that's mine. That guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's did she apologize when she blew a hole in the wall? No, at some point I feel like she apologized. I feel like she gave a sorry, and they were just
being a Jedi means never having to say you're sorry.
I guess
she's a little bit oblivious to them. Yeah. In the movie, it does seem like a little bit of an oversight, but in the book. There's that whole scene, which actually it's in the deleted scenes where they go to the village with the party and the music and all that stuff, all the instrument that they created for the caretakers, but then it got cut out of the film, and I'm really sad because we could have had another Star Wars instrument, and it was this really cool instrument. But anyway, where Rey thinks that she's going to save them from something because Luke tells them about this annual like this race comes over to like raid them every year, and it's like every year like Luke basically Rey walks out from that conversation being like, oh my gosh, well aren't you going to do anything? Don't you do anything? Don't you stop it? Like this thing happens every year. They come invade the island and you don't do anything, and it happens every year. And Luke is like, it's part, non-interventionist basically. And she's like, I'm going to do something. And so they go down to that party, or she thinks that she's about to like save the day and save the caretaker, like save the lanai from this invasion. But it turns out to be like a party, and sort of the way Luke phrased it was just sort of like, Luke phrased it as an antagonistic arrival of the other race when that wasn't actually what it was. And Rey jumped to the conclusion that this thing was happening that she had to save. And that was like one of her early lessons, was that, see, it's not always that.
Right. So he intentionally misled her.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Or at least left it vague to see where he left it up to her, and she went.
It's
which I think is interesting.
Bring with you kind of a thing.
Right.
Because heroes, sometimes they get that hero complex.
Yeah.
Oh, what's my next thing I have to save? And sometimes it's like, just chill.
Right.
Just let the inhabitants do their custom.
Yeah, we get a bunch of this is number 2 in Luke's Jedi lessons. And number 2 is that the legacy of the Jedi is failure, hypocrisy, and hubris. Which I really like that. I really like Luke's total, like,
yeah.
This is the first, other than Palpatine, we've never had someone who disliked the Jedi and was looking at them with a critical eye.
And Jabba.
It's true.
And
Jabba.
Dooku.
That's true. Okay. So other than Dooku, Jabba, Watto.
And Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon, yeah. Well, he was still part of the team, ultimately.
Look, I love this too. I love it. I mean, it's probably more memorable to me when I was a Star Wars Minute newbie, but the very first film that I was on this show for was Attack of the Clones. And I remember I had the scene where like Dooku is talking to them about, it was sort of brings up that the Jedi might not be all that they seem. And I just like, since before the Disney trilogy came out, I've been like, hello, the Jedi are like, the hubris of the Jedi is like, how aren't more people talking about this? It's like, it's criminal what they let happen to Anakin. Anakin turned out to be quite bad himself, but I think there was a show where I accidentally defended Anakin's actions, but I like that they just call it out here, and from Luke himself. I think it was really an important thing to do, and I think the people that think it's like such a departure and whatever are just haven't been looking at the facts in front of them from the previous movies.
Yeah. No, it's good. It
are we blind?
Brings to the forefront that thing that was like, I don't know, oddly still subtext within the. If you just look at it as purely like, the adventure that's going on, you don't really get that, like, oh, the adventure that's going on is because the Jedi were kind of, they had gotten cozy and they were bad at their jobs. They had gotten lazy. Hubris, exactly. Hubris. And
you can blame external forces as being what caused the downfall of the Jedi or the Republic or whatever. But the fact is that like a lot of these pieces were already in place like before then. This is something in the Thrawn book, the first canon Thrawn book that came out a few years ago. There's this part where Thrawn is talking about like, you could say that the Empire destroyed the Republic, like, but it was already unstable to begin with. There were so many like fighting forces, like no one agreed on anything. They couldn't get anything done. Like it was already a really fragile Republic to begin with. And so, you can blame it on one external force, but how long was it going to last anyway? And how great was it?
Right.
Yeah, like he says, at the height of their power, Darth Sidious was able to overthrow the galaxy and wipe out all the Jedi and so on. So they couldn't have been that.
And it is weird to hear Luke Skywalker saying Darth Sidious.
I love that.
Yeah, it's not weird in a bad way, but it's weird in a like, oh, okay, wait, it's bridging those two, and you do get that. As we've said before, I think one of the, at least for me, one of the best ways to experience the prequel trilogy is by referencing it. I like it as things that happened, and when you can mix in those elements, you can kind of pick and choose. I like having it as much as I like watching The Phantom Menace. The other ones, as a whole, it's more just kind of like, okay, like I like I like that this happened, and we can make a reference to it, and it gives us a deeper, it expanded the universe, expanded the world, the galaxy. And so it's interesting, but does feel weird to hear that name coming out of Mark Hamill's mouth in reference to Darth Sidious. It's like, oh, he saw that movie too? Oh no, wait, that's his universe.
Although it's weird because Luke clearly had to have done some independent research in between Return of the Jedi and now, because Darth Sidious, even in the movies, at no point is his name. He never says, "It was I, Darth Sidious," the whole time.
Well, but at the end of Return of the Jedi, is Anakin's ghost shows up, and he's got to be like, all right, so what was the deal with that guy? And then Anakin's like, well, let me tell you.
Oh, so you think they had a whole discussion at that point?
Or at some point in between then, in between Return of the Jedi and now, I'm sure Luke probably talked to Anakin as Force Ghost at least once.
It's easy to imagine, though, Anakin getting caught up in it and being like, well, from my point of view, the Jedi were evil, and then him turning evil again as he's defending his actions as
his
a younger
ghost
man.
It turns a little bit purple, and it's like turning red, and they're like, wait, no.
Relax. Take a whiff of our Cooper guy, the casino guy.
Smell the croupier. Speaking of blame, though.
Yeah.
Luke is totally subtweeting Obi-Wan here hard. He's just like, yeah, a Jedi was responsible for training and creating Darth Vader. And I do kind of want Ben's Force Ghost to be like, excuse me. Like, if I may. Pardon.
I do feel like Luke enjoys playing devil's advocate with her. Sort of like how he's playing hard to get on the island to begin with. I think he is, what is it called? Like Socratic reasoning her.
Making her come to her own conclusions.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like it is a little bit silly to me that she is defending the Jedi so staunchly. It's like, how much does she actually know about the Jedi at this point? She's like, that's not true. Like, just so loyally defending them, which is funny to me. It's, like a newbie thing to do.
Yeah, it's. I was wondering about that because he says, it was a Jedi Master who was responsible for the creation of Darth Vader, and does Rey know who Darth Vader even is at this point? Like that was never brought up in it. I was imagining Chewie bringing her up to speed on the way to Ahch-To, like, oh yeah, you're Luke's father was Darth Vader. It was crazy, and so on. But because saying he's responsible for Darth Vader, I'd be like, is that the? Are you talking about Kylo Ren? You're like, no. Like, oh, these kids, they just don't get it with their,
Well,
I think moments like this are where the line is kind of crossed between like, okay, should we just, there's like a little bit of a gap between what the audience knows and what Rey knows. And we're just supposed to willfully fill in that she knows it from
somehow
stories
was
and whatever.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's important for anyone undergoing Jedi training that they understand both sides of the coin.
Right. Well, which is what Luke is about to mention.
I'm picturing like a career day where the Jedi come and they explain their thing, then the Sith come and they go, don't listen to them, our side is much better, and they get to make their pitch.
But I do assume that Darth Vader is well known just for being
a menace.
Part of the Empire, not the the Jedi are forgotten, but Darth Vader is real. Everybody knows about that.
How could that seems strange to me.
How so?
I feel like Darth Vader was very famous. I feel like he was the most feared person in the galaxy for a while.
Right, but it seems like after the fall of the Empire, I don't know how people could know about Darth Vader without knowing about the Jedi. And also, I don't even know how people
She did
even
know about the Jedi.
She
Right?
thought they were a myth.
Yeah, she thought they were a myth.
Right. She knew about them, but didn't like
Right.
she knew about them, but as a myth. And so
It's one
when
of those weird
turning
things
the
about
switch
Star
between
Wars.
myth and real,
Yeah.
then she
Right.
suddenly knows a lot about them.
And that's why she's so into them. That's why she's so excited about
But
the
it's one of those weird things that in Star Wars, it's generally a weird, like, all right, just don't think about it. That the fact that 20 years after the fall of the Republic, people don't
Right.
even remember the Jedi, or like, oh, they're all extinct, and they're just sorcerers' ways and all that stuff.
Right.
Believe me, I was a 25-year-old guy at that time. Surely I would remember the Jedi if they were a thing. But yeah.
Oh, you mean it's weird that they forgot?
It's weird that the Jedi are regarded that no one knows about the Force, that the Jedi are regarded as a weird
Right.
thing. Han Solo, who was a young man during the peak of the Jedi, doesn't believe in the Force or any of that stuff. So
I think it's highly dependent on where you live, maybe. I think someone growing up in Coruscant today would know what the Jedi are and what the Force is. But again, we're talking like Outer Rim people. They just don't get the same news as everyone else.
And what they do get is probably controlled and filtered.
Right.
Or the opposite. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. Even in this country, there are certain places that teach certain histories.
Mm-hmm. And the truth might not be delivered the same way to all the people. I mean, it's certainly not here, so it wouldn't be there. But
yeah. Also, truth is a point of view.
That's Obi-Wan talking. Excuse me. I do like that then, when Rey kind of has her rebuttal, she's like, wait, and then a Jedi saved him and, knew there was still good in him and brought him back. And then he says, and then I became a legend, which is
that hit me hard.
Extra textual, because it's like, okay, everything that happened after Return of the Jedi but before now is legends.
Legend. Yeah.
I became a legend, just like my clone Luke and my horse pilot friend and all these other guys.
But that is the burden of a man who has been put on a pedestal his whole adult life.
Yeah.
It sucks. He's like living under the weight of his own image. I feel for him.
Do you think that besides Jedi or wannabe Jedi, do you think that there are other people who just see Luke as a famous person that are also trying to find him?
Yeah, like journalists and stuff? Yeah.
Journalists, or just kind of, fans, essentially, like people who are just like, oh man, this guy, like, what's up? Like almost like a
yeah, I bet
somebody who might want to try to find a reclusive, author, or like a like
J.D. Salinger.
Yeah, J.D. Salinger, or like Bill Watterson, or people who are out of the public eye, but have a famous name. Like, do you think that there are people who are just trying to hunt down Luke Skywalker just for the finding him sake, just to know what he's about and see what his deal is?
I think if we can conceive of it, it's possible in Star Wars.
That's true.
In such a big universe.
Space paparazzi.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate Luke's hermitness. It does so many things. It opens so many possibilities.
Well, so that's what I want to tell the story now. Here's my story. I should save it for a pitch to somebody, right? Here's my story of there's the guy who's been like trying to find all the clues. He's got the little, the little thumbtacks in the bulletin board, and he's been, he's like, okay, based on this, he's assembling all of the his friends think he's crazy. He's trying to put it all together, and he's like, I think Luke Skywalker is still alive, and he might be over here. And he's managed to kind of narrow down where Luke might be to this group of planets, and he shows up. He flies over to the system. He picks it. He's like, all right, well, that looks like people. People can't live there. People could live here. Let me check this out. And he goes around, and he's got things, and he's like, all right, well, according to this, I'm picking up a faint blip of, maybe it's some kind of transponder from the X-Wing or something. And he finally narrows it down, finds where Luke has been staying. And he shows up the day after The Last Jedi happens, so Luke's gone. He finds some like potentially evidence that he could have been here, but he's like, oh, he's not here. I'll have to keep looking.
Just a pile of clothes with a metal hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So someone involved in this is also someone, and then they stop by the former Dex's diner for some clues.
There you go.
And someone related to Dex is involved with this. Also, someone who's like a descendant of one of the clones, from the old days, is involved with this too. Yeah. And when this story is told in the audiobook, you'll know, because there'll be like that New Zealand accent. And a clone, it's like,
right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you'll meet them first, and then you won't know that they're an ex-clone yet. There'll just be somebody that he's talking to.
Totally.
I like it. Let's go with it.
All
also
right.
Mara Jade.
I also like that because Empire Strikes Back, of course, is all about Darth Vader scouring the galaxy trying to find Luke Skywalker. So it would have a nice ring theory. You could have all these probe droids being sent out to try to find Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm. But it's just one plucky individual with gumption.
I mean, the Empire honestly probably has a lot of people. I mean, the First Order probably has a lot of people on Luke's tail as it is right now.
You would think.
Yeah, I would.
So, Pete, I hate to bring this up because I know you said you were sick of talking about this, but
maybe I'm not.
Yes, maybe you can weigh in. The subject of bringing balance to the Force comes up, where Luke says, "For many years there was balance, and then I saw Ben." I assume he means Ben Quananeros. But so Luke clearly means there was balance, meaning there was only Jedi and there were no bad guys around.
Yeah, that's false.
That's false. That's my statement that's what he's saying is false, or that's what
Luke is wrong.
Luke is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's one of those things that
I think people interpret the prophecy in a way that I don't agree with.
What's your perception of the prophecy?
The prophecy is super vague. So if we consider the prophecy as there will be a chosen one who will bring balance to the Force. First of all, that in itself tells us very little. And then it's up to different parties to interpret that prophecy. And so one interpretation could be the moment Anakin is born, something magical, something in the universe will happen and everyone will feel that the Force is in balance. Another interpretation might be as soon as Anakin is born, the Sith will be destroyed and there will be no dark side. And what is the end goal of balance? Another interpretation could be, when Anakin reaches adult age, this is when there will be balance. And we'll clearly know when the balance has occurred, because balance is when this certain person has died, or this certain number of Jedi versus somehow the Force somehow will look on the midichlorian meter. I don't know, whatever. There is no way to know when balance is achieved. And so that in itself is when people expect any sort of a timeline for Anakin to fulfill this, that already makes no sense to me, because how would you define when this should happen? To me, perfectly satisfying prophecy could be Anakin could set a chain of events in motion that will bring balance in 1,000 years. I'd be fine with that. I am taking it on face value that Anakin is the chosen one just due to Clone Wars. There was an arc where the Mortis arc is when they kind of they establish that Anakin is the chosen one. It's this whole thing. So I'm fine with accepting that. But even in itself, that has never meant too much to me. It's a lot of pressure to put on one person. And also, I think balance is not something that ever should be achieved as balance, and now it stays in balance. The person just has to stand on top. You just have to keep the ball never rolling. I just think it's impossible. It's an impossible pursuit. There's no such thing as balance. There's these two sides that both sides, both polar ends, are too lopsided. And I think there's a way to, and I think even the characterization of the dark side as something dark is already too black and white for me. If we consider the dark side as the pursuit of wanting more, the pursuit of, feeling jealousy and sort of having emotions and pursuits, like sort of greed for more things, is what I think of the dark side. And the light side is sort of like the opposite of that. I mean, even if we think chemically, like within people, you could think of the dark and light side as like dopamine and serotonin. And serotonin is like the light side, is like you're happy with what you have. And dopamine is like the molecule that always drives you to want more of something. And dopamine is what makes you want to grab more food and more. And it's also what makes you want to reach out for like friends. And it's also what makes you take measures to save yourself from things. And there's a light side and a dark side to both sides. You need dopamine to drive you toward things that keep you alive, but you can't have so much of it that you just keep seeking more and more and more and more and more. You have to have a certain point where you are satisfied with the amount that you have, and no one person, like everyone has both sides at different times and with different things. And I think true balance is when you have the dark elements and the light elements, and that includes the greed part of you, because greed is what seeks us, like helps us keep ourselves alive. And the part that can also show moderation and be like, okay, I am fine with just, what I got. Like, I don't need to, too much dark side leads to, addiction and things like that. Right. So I think that's how I feel about balance. Is I think there needs to be more okayness with the dark side in combination with the light side. And it never should be about stamping out dark and making light prevail. I don't want that.
I agree. I think that's my take too. I think that Anakin does bring balance to the Force in illuminating the surplus of, Jedi kind of quote unquote light side do-gooders who are again, overly self-confident and kind of complacent. And then by making it more kind of even footing between the light and dark sides, then that's the balance. Then it's not kind of stagnant, kind of, frozen in amber balance. It's just like, okay, well, now it's at least more equal footing, and things might wobble a little bit in one direction or the other, but at least we're not completely dipped in one direction.
And when things tip toward the direction of wanting something, that is what keeps us moving. Like when things just stop. If you were never thirsty, you would never drink water. Like it. Not to get like morbid, but like that's why like when people kind of stop working or they stop having hobbies and things to keep them seeking more knowledge or more connection or whatever, that is when a lot of people see declines in their life. And that's, it's purpose and stuff. And the dark side can bring purpose.
As evidenced by the last year or so. There's a lot of people that had a hard time with it because there's not that daily drive was taken away.
Yeah, like I don't waking up and having to do work or like go to a meeting or something. But at the same time, that is also the thing that makes me get up and put clothes on and do another day. And then it kind of, once I'm in it, I'm like, okay, that motivated me to do something. And it would have been, it's like I have to constantly live with that knowledge that I will like something and it will be a little bit like pulling teeth, and that both of those are frankly necessary.
Right.
I remember seeing an explanation from George Lucas, not specifically about RE, the prophecy, but about balance. And he was comparing it to like like your body. If you are eating healthy food and exercising, then your body will be in balance and be running properly. But if you're indulging in a lot of bad habits, then that's when, comparing like the dark side with like tumors or, like, oh, unless you take care of yourself, the dark side is going to manifest itself and eventually it will kill you. So it wasn't so much about like, oh, the Sith and the Jedi being equal as like, well, we have to, you basically, you only want the good side, because once that gets out of whack, then that's when the dark side, that's when like the dark side metastasizes and becomes too, but I'm not sure if that even.
That sounds like the same thing that I mean, I interpret that as because the body, when it's working, it's like, it's a system of all these, it's a system of constantly finding homeostasis.
Mhm.
And that revolves around having these levers that are like pulled, but you need like the balance, if you have like too much of one electrolyte, it could throw off another one. And you don't want to have like too much of something. So the body is constantly like kind of adjusting itself to make up for things. But when you have too much of, like cancer metastasizing, that it's not bad because it's the dark, or it's not bad because it's a thing that is proliferating, because we all have little like cancerous things that kind of grow in us all the time, but it doesn't grow to the point where it becomes cancer and or whatnot. Like, it's the imbalance, it's the amount, it's the balance, it's the imbalance of it that's bad, not the fact that there are like viruses in our body all the time and bacteria.
Right.
The system
Agreed.
needs all of these things moving. Yeah.
Well, Pete, sorry I had to bring it up though. It is.
No, it's okay. I feel good because, I agree with what Chrysanthe was saying about it. I just get I feel like I tend to rant about it, so it was very refreshing to hear Chrysanthe talk about it. I think that was, though, all I had for 60. Did you have any other, Alex or Chrysanthe, did you have any other things for the movie in general? Did you want to keep us, we will, if we're invited, we will come by to your show to talk about stuff.
Yes.
But is there anything that we should look for? We already mentioned a little piano bit when the fathers storm by the bar. Is there anything else we should keep an ear out for coming up?
Yes. The fathers, next time you hear them, first of all, pay attention to try to think of whether you can tell how much they weigh and how based on what they sound like. Because if you think about the sound design of a fathier, they would have had to like conceive of something of that size and weight to make that particular kind of thump that sounds believable. Like, imagine if you had something that sounded too light or something that sounded too heavy. I just think it must be so difficult to find that balance.
Yeah.
Also, look when the lounge piano scene comes up.
Before the Fanthiers attack.
Yes, before the
wall breaks.
Fanta Bantha's attack. They look toward John Williams' previous scores for what that might be. Himself playing. And the crash is there's like a percussive crash there that is performed by his brother. And so that's like technically a Williams brother duet.
Nice.
There.
Okay.
Yeah. In this minute, the last thing is we kind of get a hint of Jedi steps, and it kind of goes into the Force theme.
As they're headed toward although they're in the Force, they're in the...
It's like as he's walking up the steps, and then they're inside.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Nice. Well, thanks. And thanks for being on this week. Like I said, listeners and viewers, you can... after you listen to this, you can look for us as eventual participants in Chrysanthe's YouTube channel, and you can go to StarWarsMinute.com/SWMM. Right? Yes, SWMM, and that'll get you to at least the YouTube version of that, which recommended for all. And also, if you haven't been, if you're confused as to why we're talking about how things look and things we're holding up or things we're seeing, maybe you don't know that the show is also on YouTube this season. It's StarWarsMinute.com/YouTube.
What? Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, you've been on camera for about an hour now, Alex. Sorry.
Jesus.
Cool
boy.
But so
Wait,
please.
it's StarWarsMinute.com/Music Minute.
Music Minute. Okay, there we go. I already said it, so now I have to also make SWMM go there too. So,
oh yeah.
So you can get there two ways. Go to StarWarsMinute.com/SWMM or /Music Minute.
Always two there are.
And then hopefully you go check that out. Binge all of those if you haven't. Meet us back here on Monday for a brand new episode of Star Wars Minute.
Star Wars Minute.